Kaya yoxsatini iltakat yuhan. Kalhuch and yes, wush kanachuti daat. Ya. Ch'u aya wush kanachkachti daat. Jakuni nachsayi tuwati, yekwati. Wasa ach tu yek klingich to tu wooch. Wasa shtiqa khatati, ya atling ch'u. Iltakat yuhan. Ha'i has outlet yahaayí qatangi qahaqusti. Yewa one qanins qanakhoya atinakhay natich yahaayí qatangi qahaqusti. Atlain shkalning qudzati atshi qa atlain an kasaku qa na kwe qa na saku. Yewa just lingit khinach qoa wujin yuqatil atki. Ana we qinakhoya gachtit laq takat yuhan. One qanins qinakhaya adat yutu yuqatil atknuch ya ade aya wooch katijil ya hayuqatangi. Yewa ya khana aktuasagu we at yahaayí tisatini aqa adata we yuqagachtit laat. Shukwa ayata kach usk aya weta. Adusada tuasago yuqewatani weta da. Ch'a dasa. Khatake shukwa.
Wasa duasak wait
Echwasaka. Wasagachtu sa. Kijk de heen gwell. Kijk hatag shuwahichen. Kijk aya. Ja achie wutien, achen chie wutien. Je awe konetling gitste gwell tu kijk hatag shuwahiche. Je awe ach tuasagu khoa. Kijk. Chasa ja ach keitli. Kijk de heense. Kier. Ach echat wutien. Qanak awe chosatin. Culture camp, yahaqusti, qaidil tu yeh yahawutian. Ye awe shaq, akach ayatun tuqin. Aqa awe ye yaxsaqa qanak. Qanak, aqa atasa. Keitli du asakach keitli. Qanakhoy qane atushuk. Wan qanins we ch'u. Wan qanins khadwuz. Das keitl leit qaqinach. Ye awe ye yaxsaqa. Dog. Achtwasukul qoa. Has yaxsaqai. Runs like the wind. Spirit of the wolf. Qanakhoy at wutushuk. Aqa awe ye khat yaxsaqa. Tlaik hasto in kananik. Spot. Eqa atwe. Das atse. Yuqaitla. Ch'a keitl qachan ch'ewutien. Kelli dati keitliach qoa. Ye awe. Qoach. Qonachoe. Ya has kutzage. Lingi diach ch'agu keitli. Talwait ayach chagutat yahaayí. Yisatige? Keitliach was a team. Ch'an qua gwallwe douche our shot he ch'uti.
Way Kate will do the how. Genach will do the how. Way was I don't know, ta.
Has ka do a sai. Do a sai.
Do as I.
Yeah, well.
Huaji.
We ka do a sai keka ya ch'egu gink ch'u ya hukja ka duk tunach aya ya kawaha Kate ka take got has to keinach yet the cat has to die adach a joy. Yeah, we yahaayí. Milchish.
Call dúdí ach toys way Kate yahaayí.
Oh, okay. Guess it Kate ka.
Way Kate way Wakdana. I don't know how to say it.
Do a yabu. A yabu. Waktana a yabu. Jiwu.
Oh, a yabu.
A yabu. To ya waktana a yabu. Ye awa u. Yahaayí yabu ka a yabu. Atcha iti a yabu. Kuksa. Chagutat again.
Shiadi away. Plain usk.
Kodachaya. Ha hit yik ayayati. Dech Kate, Kaik douche, Dech Guinea gishu. Kawe a hetkika akshat. Dushati hatuasaku. Ha. Konacho shawa hika hiti koa. Kachan kananik. Adusa ach gekwahuin. Du hartli. Kuk katas atlet. Hosaku adusa. Keka achijini. Leo kat aya has atluk has atlet. Hit yik koa ye has jini. Kutzin has a jak. Ewa.
La wooch yahaayí.
Ewa.
Steak.
Spekjacheti. Iti aga. Tasak showe isikuge. Tauchatsawe is a team. Hosaku ush. Sawit. Kathatsu kakasai. Yeah, no. Yeah. Why are asai tud?
Duck.
Dakhaayige?
What?
Hmm.
Duffy?
What 18 ay?
Oh, okay.
18 hosakuko.
Yes, what's the cook?
Yehuji kuksayeti.
خوشه خدشه yeah. La 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 la
Awashicha. Wait, how? Hosaku, why? We shukwa yukatang. Yad, Tehosaku, Teshdasa Hosaku. Yaha, the daat. The Drekar Sai Isatin. Yawa, ya. Was Tehosatin.
Give away Shaanáx, Kanak, steelhead.
Oh, shut. Wait, that.
Kanashtish.
Washa Atina Khayati, we atling, Hat Sao Kodat, the way you atki. Yadu has Hat Klug. Teach. Chas. Qat. Ch'a. Yaw. Sak. Shach. Tuq. Chat. Zanti. Sheq. Chude. Tsar. Ishqin. Qat. Kheta. Ashat. Ya. Dalay. Tuz. Naq. Ha. Tsukaltasa Hosaku Adam. Yatakoa. Yisukuke. Dukhaya atake. Quatroitatsu Adam. Yadua. Waskan Teku. Tek Yeti. Shak. Shach. Dach. Yeoa Qualkiwi do a sago at waita. Dach. Kahwech. Ch'ir. Yed. Hukli. Klekatank. Klekahetk. Oh. Yatake? Yata Keka. Klekahetk. Kleshkahaku. Tsutlastasa Hosaku Adan. Hosaku Guksa, one Kalins Hosatin, Askatu Yikt, Kutano at Hagu, Glediachati with Ekahuin, Shukwa. Wait a clock, Hosaku Gwahi, Horwatusaku.
Yake, Yao, Yangut, Hawaii. Such a good idea they have.
Yeah, Akaya Gwash. Hast du jetzt Kutzeti? yahaayí. Ya Hawaii kuchtati. Ya taak koa Hawaii yechat kukwati. Kutan koa anaski. Kwachatsu kwal kashan chatsati. Taak chatsu Hawaii achtuasugu yekochatini. Asaya chatsati yatatsu. Eat. Yai aya eat you do a saga at tsukwa. When qalins qatuasaku akuwu wudustini ye oachan akawanika a kakasha gwashiai kuwu aya has ausatin hasu yetki wak kachi has ausane hasu jin Kleshach toashku yai kuwu yisati Kleshach toashku yai kuwu ayilqini Kushtini hintade kwati. Agwash kushtini hintade kwahud. Think it atwasku aya. Oh, it's a good heart. Ucha. Little cheese. Okay. How did it go that time?
That bunchberry, that's different than dogwood, right?
Same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Oh,
They're both
okay.
duh.
That my father, what I wanted to say it, but I didn't want to break immersion. Because my father showed me how to make a deer call out of that.
Ach ish. Ach waqshiyik ye ausene. We buwakan an ʼatudli.átk yahaayí. Or I'd probably say ʼatudli.átk. So consult the notes. I got a phrase for us to translate. Ach ish, ach waqshiyik, ye ausane. So this would be demonstrated to me. We buwakan. I think it's on ʼatudli at ade dutleyech. Yeah. Buwakan, with it, people lure them, I guess that's called, luring. Katudut is a verb to, like when there's certain animals you can call and they'll come, and, and then the at part would be the thing that people use to, and this is not the name of it also, like I don't know, if there might be a name for a deer call, but this is just saying a thing that people use to call the deer over. And then ade wudutle yechiye, the way that people make it. So that's one way. There's probably more than one way to put it together. All right. So while we're here, anybody want to read this sentence for us? We did this last night, so we got to do it in here too.
Kach ye gugink has to jin. Ch'a an ch'u has kudsati. ʼatudli on hus at ch'a.
Okay. And this has 3 parts. Here's the first part. What is it saying?
Their hands are small.
Their hands are very small. And then what about ch'a haskutzati?
Maybe like, however, it's how they are. It's just how it is. Like it's just.
Anyone else have any ideas?
Something like, but with them, however, they came into existence.
So ch'a on its own. Do we know what that is? Because like so ch'a has a whole bunch of different things where it's like when you put it together with this, it has like this this is one of the cases where this means something different than what the 2 parts might mean individually, I guess.
Is it like nevertheless?
Yeah. So like whenever we're doing like ch'u could sometimes mean like however, or although. Ch'a is like nevertheless. And then I would say ch'u is sort of like despite that, or it's like it's somehow like it's like the logical turn. Like how much are we doing the logical turn? So nevertheless, or despite that. So I guess we could sort of say like ch'u is kind of like although, however. Ch'a is nonetheless, or nevertheless, is that how you say it? And then ch'u is like kind of like despite that. And then there's another fun one, which is like, I think it's kati, which is, it's a mystery. No one knows how. So despite that, haskutzati, they exist. What's the last part?
Because they eat with them.
Because they eat with them. Such a cute sentence. So anybody know what this was talking about? Any guesses? Close. It's like a northern relative.
Ground squirrel.
Kunaye. I think only the inlanders have a severe advantage here. But we had the fishes, so we got to take turns. This is spelled in other ways too. It's not on the coast. It's not a coastal animal. It's little, cute.
And
It's chipmunk.
so he has stripes.
Yes. It's like 2 little stripes going down.
Is the second on like some kind of with them or?
Yeah, so this, so we were looking at this last night too. And I think this is a good time to take a look and maybe to review it. So the empty base exists so that you can attach a suffix to a pronoun, right, and to a name, because you can't put a suffix on a pronoun or a name. You can't say achde or achdach. It just does not work, and you really shouldn't be saying like chonedach or chonede. So you have to either put like either chan on there to like chande or something, or you could put E. So this E, which looks like this on its own, it doesn't mean anything. It just exists so you could put a suffix there. So my, your, their, our, y'all's, them all's, people's, and then in this case, your father. So ach ide, du ide, ha ide, yi ide, hastu ide, ha ide, ish ide. Ach eat, this one can contract to chat. So you could say chat idishe, help me, right? You eat, do eat, ha eat, ye eat, has to eat, ha eat, ish eat. Ach ich, ye ich, du ich, ha ich, ye ich, has to ich, ha ich, ye ish ich. So we've all probably said a whole bunch of these, but maybe not thinking all the time about like what they kind of do. And then we've got the with one. So in can become chan. Chan kananik, tell me. In, du'in, it can become dun, but I've never heard it or seen it. Ha'in, yi'in, hastu'in, ka'in, which can become kun, and ka'i, I guess I should put that one up there too. Ka'i can, oops, that should have that thing, and it can also become ku. That's where ʼatudli.átk comes from. So in very commonly becomes on, with it. So coming back, this is a Shagun Sophie Smarch classic. We were in Carcross and we all picked little stuffed animals and we're supposed to come up with sentences. Basically, we did this activity where we sent a young person up there to sneak something out of the hockey bag. We had all these stuffed animals. They were all local animals. And then they went back to a group, and we were so blessed. We probably had 6 groups, and every group had a high fluency burst speaker there. And we came up with 5 sentences to describe what our thing was, from least obvious to most obvious. So if it was a beaver, the big teeth, or the big tail, floppy tail, those would be the last sentences. And then we would read the sentences one at a time, and everyone's supposed to guess what our thing is. And so this was the one that she came up with because they had kunegi. And so, it was the cutest sentence for the cutest little animal. So it won the cute contest by a mile. It was Canada. Canada uses miles. 5 Mile Hill exists in Canada. Nobody knows why any of this stuff is the way it is. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions?
Aktuasagu, that document of pronouns and directionals.
Yeah, that. Okay. Yeah, it's called Clinkit Bases and Suffixes. I'll put the link on our class webpage for tonight. Yeah, because we were just going over that in intermediate, and I was like, I bet you we all need to review this thing just to see it, and because then it also, I think it's a good, like, because one of the reasons I put this thing together, and what was interesting is I probably put this together shortly after one of those camps, because I know at the beginning of this slideshow is a picture of me and one of my babies teaching at one of those camps. This was in Carcross. And it goes through, so a number of different things. So this whole thing is about like, what happens to these nouns when you put suffixes on them? And some of them like ya, we, he, or ya, he, we, and you. They do some things, but like yade, this one stays long and high throughout. And one of the reasons, I think, is because there's also, let's see if I can find it. There's this, the face. So when face gets day, it goes long and low. Ya day. That's how you can kind of tell which one it is. Ya day, ya day. But then you'll also have a noun there. Ach ya de. Ches ach ya de. Don't you shake your finger at me. Which is probably maybe the longest verb I've ever heard. And so we would say ches ach ya de. Shlek shakich yen chik. I think that's what it is. I like verbs that are long. It's kind of fun. So then in here you have finger, head, horizontal surface, U, a plus D, L classifier, yen for something like a tail or something to go back and forth like this, chik. If any of you are working with speakers, we're trying to figure out, did we get an answer for a fish moves its tail like this and a whale moves its tail like that? We'll see if we can answer that puzzle by Monday. It's the big question. Okay, we are running out of time.
Is ch'ani the same thing as ch'an? Ch'ani?
I think it's a little bit different. And so, because that is a case where we have like a bunch of things that do sound the same, which we were looking at this last night too, like this exact same thing. So I've got, in Hausaneh Chayuchatangi, there's a chapter on particles. And so particles are basically things that are small, and it doesn't really make sense sometimes to analyze it individually, like ch'a. And so ch'a is something that just really loves to just grab onto other things. So it could grab onto all these question particles and turn them into like whatever, however, wherever, those types of things. And then you can move into ch'an, but ch'ani is usually peacefully or calmly or nicely. And I've heard this different ways. The first time I heard it as ch'ani nach. The second time I heard it was ch'ani dach. And the third time I heard it was ch'ani. But I've also heard ch'an kunach. So I wrote them all down in there. And the context for this one was, one of us had a baby. I can't remember which one of our babies it was. I won't put the baby on blast. But sometimes y'all like see a picture of the dog. If you have a dog and you have a baby, I hope you have a patient. I think dogs just know to be patient because they're like, I will get murdered if I bite this baby. And so the baby's sometimes just like banging on the dog and pulling on his ears and like just doing all kinds of. And so the phrase we're trying to get is be gentle with the dog. And that's where we got ch'ani nach. Ch'ani nachinasne. So that one I think is usually an adverb. And so you could say ch'ani yenasne, do it with kindness. But that one I think you do have the verb root for on. That's why I think, so that's where like it gets confusing because you have on the village, you have on with it, and you have on the verb root for pleasant or kind.
Sheesh.
And then there's some of these other ones like ch'aqeqa and ch'anich are really fun ones because they mean like you try, it was all for nothing. Ch'aqeqa, right? If like you just tried it and it just, like what I say, I was like if I spent all day building a shed, and I felt pretty good. I was sitting down drinking my cup of coffee and then my shed just fell over. So ch'aqeqa. I just built something for nothing, right? And the way I heard this too, the first time I heard this one, ch'anich. So ch'aqeqa, as far as how do they work, the verb root there is qeq, which is to swing. So the way it was explained to me, it's like you push something out and it just swung right back at you. And then ch'anich is it's just on the beach. And the first, I think I heard that one from Selena Everson. And there was a little story they were using that they wrote to elicit verbs. And so this cat was hiding because this cat was very stinky and was hiding. because they didn't want a bath. And when it was under these 3 baskets. And basically, it was like, well, maybe it's under the first basket. Nope. Well, maybe it might be under the second basket. Nope. Okay, it's got to be under the 3rd basket. So it was trying to figure out like how doubt works in Tlingit. It was the work of on Seth Cable. And then when she picked up the 3rd basket, in that part of the story, Kaseach really laughed and she said, you tried for nothing to hide from me, and still I found you. It was really neat. It was really neat to see how those things get put together.
Hane,
Uh,
what's the difference between ch'a, and ch'a,
yeah, so ch'anich would be like in vain. It was for nothing. And ch'anichka, so this one is usually an adverb. And then I think ch'anichka, you could just straight out say that. Like the thing is, it's useless. It's just something that you would just abandon on the beach. So then, for example, like if I just had some old car that finally just broke down, I would say, ha, ch'anichka. And then you'd probably just be done. I don't think you'd have to say anything. But ch'anich usually has a verb that comes after it. So they are related concepts, but this one is sort of like you did it for nothing. Okay. Okay, well, we only got 10 minutes left, but I'm still going to try this out, okay? So I thought we would go over this, but maybe this will be a preview for what's coming next year. So I was looking at this one slideshow and trying to I think we did this one before, but I thought it's always good to review this stuff because we went really far out with like transcribing and translating these big speeches. And what we'll do with that is on Monday, I'll show you folks what the answers are to that whole thing. And I'll post them so that we have them. And we start to get the story. And we'll talk about what's it going to take to get to a point where you can listen to something like that and not need to write it down and not need to bust in the dictionary every time. And so there'll be big gaps, right? They'll be like, okay, there's a flood and people are living on the mountains and there's dogs keeping the animals away and rocks are being used to tide the boats down. I don't know, it's something like that, right? So I think it's really interesting as your comprehension climbs and as your speaking climbs. And these are slow climbs, right? The first one's about food, the second one's about the flood, the third one's about these killer whales that steal someone's wife and try to marry her. But so sort of thinking about this stuff, like we keep talking about these components, right? Preverb, object, thematic, conjugation, subject, classifier, stem, suffix, postverb. A lot of our focus right now is on the conjugation part. How do you move a verb into different modes? Once you do that, what happens when you start changing the subject, changing the object? Those are really big questions because that combined, and whether or not there's a thematic there, will tell you what the prefix is going to be. So like we're still in this part where we're figuring out how to put prefixes together. And we do have, I think what I need to do is probably just make a little handbook of prefixes. So you could just bust it out and look it up. And you could say, okay, kukwa hui, or kukwa hui. I'm going to shovel, right? So then you say, okay, I know that huin, it's going to be long and low. If I could just get that prefix, gachtu huin, ketsu gachtu huin, just see your satan ha'anikach. We ain't going to shovel again. It's just going to rain on this land. That's my prediction. It's just like Blade Runner. They knew it was just going to be rain, rain, rain. Okay. But then like getting to the stem. So like coming back to the stem variation, that's what we want to talk about a little bit here. So we're going to jump ahead. We're going to move through these first parts kind of fast. This is how I used to think of this thing. I still like this little illustration. The light comes on, means you have an object. The light comes on, means we've activated the perfective marker. The light comes on, it means this is a second person singular subject. The light comes, this light should always be on because we'll always have a classifier. But then we can activate the D component and we can activate the I component. The I component for now, we only activate it if the verb has indeed happened. That's what the letter I does in the classifier. Did it happen? Yeah, okay. Activate the I component. And then someone throws the switch in the big Lingi grammar machine in the sky. So thinking about verb modes, almost every mode is minus I. So again, I like to think of minus I as the natural form of the classifier. The zero group classifier is a zero. The S group is sa. The L group is ch'a. The SH group is sha. Those are your four classifiers. Zero, sa, ch'a, sha. That's what they are. If it happens, then you switch them to ya, si, shi, shi. They get altered because someone needs to mark that the verb did happen. They can also be plus D or go plus D. Usually what that means is the subject is also the object. Saw myself, talked to myself, cut myself, patted myself on the back, right? Whatever those things. All those things are going to be plus D type of things. Or we're doing this thing to each other, plus D. So the state imperfective is plus I. The perfective is plus I. The repetitive state imperfective is plus I. That one's pretty rare, but we see it in like you, I, ya, tunk. There's the ya right there. ʼatudli.átk. There's the dli right there. Those are repetitive forms. Most of the other repetitive ones are all minus I. So everything else is minus I. Future, hortative, repetitives, conditional, act imperfectives. Those are progressive imperfectives. They're always minus I. So the classifier stays in its natural form. It doesn't have to change. So thinking about this stuff, in stem variation, the theme tells us the stem variation, right? And these are the things we have to look for. Is it open or closed? That's a big question. That's your two big categories. Open ones, closed ones, okay? Because if they're open, sometimes we have to close them. When we have this little H, that means it stays low in repetitive modes. That's what that H tells us. So we're not there yet. We don't have to worry about it, but if you start getting into the U with the K at the end or something like that, where we're getting into those happens on a regular basis, happens all the time types of things, that will affect the stem in that. For this one, you can remember, they all have names: open, fading, closed, glottalized, ejective. You don't have to remember those names. The only thing you have to remember here is if it's closed, if it's marked high, it stays high. Just remember that. If you see a high tone in the theme, it doesn't want to go low. And then if you have the little cross thing, it means it doesn't change. So here, this one, open, fading, open, glottalized, ejective, invariable. That's what they're going to look like. So glottalized, what that means is in tant ʼatling, that would have, it would go sha'at. That's what it would sound like, sha'at. But tant ʼatling is gone. So it leaves us with the aftermath of it, which is keep it high. Because there was no high tone in tant ʼatling, but the aftermath of it is still here. But for all, the thing you just need to keep in mind, marked high, stay high. That's all you got to know. Marked variable doesn't change. So when we're looking at a perfective, a positive perfective, there's zero and everything else. So this is the conjugation class. Zero, na, ga, ga. If it's open, long and high is for zeros, long and low for everything else. That's just how it's going. It's how it's going to want to go. Yahaayí, because it's na conjugation. Ch'a, because it's zero conjugation. So that's why you got to remember. You just got to file that stuff in your memory. If it's closed, the zeros will be short and high. Everything else will be long and low. But here we see these do not like to go low, so they go long. They stay high, long and high. So that's how the whole thing works. It's like you have a rule, but then sometimes the stem variation is like, I don't like to go low. So okay, stay high then, stay high. So then there you'd have Ch'ashat, where if that verb did allow it to go low, it would be ch'ashat, because it's g conjugation, right? For negative perfectives, so again, here you have ch'asaku, ch'asaku. That's high and long every time. That's how it wants to be. Ch'asaku. Zeros want to be short and high, everything else long and low. And then for closed, they always want to be long and low. It doesn't matter what the conjugation class is. But if it doesn't allow a low version, it'll stay high. So this stuff, it does become predictable, but we just have to remember this stuff. Futures, they're always long and high. Nice. It doesn't matter what the conjugation class is. We're all united in being long and high in the future. Negative future, long and low. Unless there's no low version, it stays high. Every time. Yiqwati. That's just how the language works. Futures go high. Negative futures go low. That's just how it works. So in the perfective, you will have y. You will always have a plus I classifier. So it's going to be ya, di, hle, tle, si, zi, sh, or je. And then we already went over what is the stem going to be? Zero open, long and high. Everything else, long and low. Closed, zero, short and high. Everything else, long and low. But the glottal and injective don't allow a low version. So it'll just be long and high. These are your prefix options. So on the top you have the classifier. On the left you have for person, including a 3 on 3. So here you'd have wugut, but you'd have awashat. So if there's an object there, then it has to go to this one. Yi and wu, those are going to be na, ga, and qa. And if it's a zero conjugation, you'll have iya and uwa. Hat uwagut, hat iyagut, wede wugud, wede yigud. That's how it's going to work. The ones with the orange box would all become M's for our inland speakers. There's no magic there. Vowel, W, consonant, vowel. That's the magic combination. Didn't I just say there's no magic? Amde, amse, amze, amche, amgle, amshe, amje. If you add, we're putting ka here, but we could change that to ya. We could change it to sha. You'd say shachwa, shautua, shia, shayi, shawa, ashawa, right? Again, these ones with the orange around them, all those W's would switch to M's. So then we go through some examples, which we'll do next semester, where I'll show you this. And there's lots of hints on here. Shows you the theme. I'll go through and I'll color code these themes just so that I'll get all my box of crayons out and I'll color them. But if you look on the top right, it gives you the answer. There's an object, there's a perfective marker. The classifier is going to be tle, and it's going to be short and high. Just in case you forgot that a zero in the perfective is short and high. It's right up there. Then we'll predict all of these, and then that'll get us to the negative perfective. So the negative perfective changes. One of the big changes is that you're going to have the irrealis and the perfective, which they usually combine. So that's not the biggest factor. The biggest factor is that the classifier goes back to its natural state. 0, da, ch'a, sa, sha, sh. And ch'a, sa, and sha can all have the vowel knocked out by the irrealis, or the perfective marker, actually. Because in some cases, there's nothing to shield it. If that perfective marker or irrealis touches ch'a, sa, or sha, they drop their vowel. And then we see again the stem variation, opens, zeros, short and high, everything else long and low. All the closed want to be long and low, but the glottal and the ejective, oops, I should say ejective, won't allow it. They'll stay high. So then here are all of our prefix combinations for this. And they just look different because you have the classifier going back to -I. But in this case, here if we look at the third person, all of these, they will drop their vowels. Ch'asa, wutusa, yissa, yisa, wusa, or wus, and awus, right? So we just have to get used to that happening. And this is where you have to remember. Tesh, awuska. And there's mechanics behind it, right? It's not tesh, awsaku. And it's not tesh, awsaka. It's tesh, awuska. Yidet ch'a, yisaku. Here they are with the thematic. And you do have some, you don't have any here where that you have the M. But you do have some here. Kamdu, kamdus, kamdush, kamdush. Yeah, well. Here again is that, we've seen this one before, these are the things that will cause the sa, sha, and sha to drop their vowel. If any of these are immediately before a thematic or the a third person, irialis, na conjugation, qa, not contracted, y or daqa, and then d pushes it plus d anyways. And then we're gonna predict a whole bunch of verbs. And I think through this prediction, like, my guess is the patterns begin to solidify, right? Because it's all so abstract at this point that we got to go through and just drill a whole bunch of these things. But one of the things is, like, I do believe you do this enough, you'll realize if you change the verb within, like, that could be teen, to watch something, and you'll know how to build that prefix and plug a different verb root in there. Then you're cooking with uchganhini. Thoughts or questions? It's the last thing I'll teach you this whole year. Probably. Maybe. Keep paddling. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to say I might not have made it last week, and I'm not 100% sure I will this week. And I think unless people don't want to, we might take a break for winter. But this Thursday, people can hopefully come together at 5. Even if I don't make it, there's still chips in there, I think. And so if you can show up to do the speaking and clink it 5 to 6 or whatever on Thursday, maybe I'll be there too.
Okay. This is the last recording of the year for Advanced Tlingit. Monday's class will not be recorded. We'll have a chance to share openly all our hopes and dreams and occasional bouts of discouragement, and to talk about, like, what's next, what are we going to do, how we're going to stay in the language, what's going to help us. Anything else before we go?
Will those 2 slides you showed us be online?
Parts of the second one, but all of the first one, because next semester we're going to re-drill those. But I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll put them up. Maybe I'll put them all up in an act of, maybe that'll be your early end of year present. I'll put all the answers up there. So see if you could learn them by January. Ch'a.
I was curious, would you say Klinukzi Sakunain for Pop-Tart? And then a follow-up question, could I shorten it to just Nooks?
Well, Nooks is like just any, Nooks I would think of as candy. So whenever people say Nooks, I think that has already been taken by candy. I would probably say, so toos is to toast something. So ch'tusi, ch'nuksi sauchnain would probably work. But I want to have some sort of, because I guess they get thrown up in the air. Keteqiqi, ch'nuksi sauchnain. How's that?
It's the name for a cat. And
Oh.
I'm trying to. My buddy is getting a cat named Pop Tart, and I wanted to translate that for him.
Huh.
I wanted to name the cat, but if nothing else would, I mean, I don't want to make it too long, but that's why I suggested nuts for short.
That's a very sweet name. The next book, so after I finish this dictionary and I finish the advanced Tlingit textbook someday, then I'll write a book. Yeah, it's called Here's What You Name Your Damn Cat. Because people like send me pictures and like, oh, and I just think of this story. Okay. Kektahin awa has ausatin sa yadi. Qi aya aye wuti. Ya has to hiti yidach aya kwash kutits tin aya has ausatin sa yadi. Nich kat aya koa. Kone aya daat away you has to ch'at. Duhsa to ta. Kachosatin the kat ya yagi. Kachosatin the ta. Wasa atka kone ishan sa yadi. Watchman aya has to cheat the tongue. Adutsa to ideka de adutsa to ideka the she with sa yadi. Ye awe kwash. What's that do sa? Anaski fish and game. Achantas wa at. Kosh the gainach. Kehas ausenuk. With sa yadi. Aka hit yik aya ye has ausene. Kosa chantin. Ata chani awe. Ye awe has de chech has ausen. Kainach oh. Kekwak shinket sa ye do yet gacht sa. Shinket dan ka. Chosaku e ka kushtako ish. Shinket ausaku. Hu owe chakwawus. Ye owe chewawus. Kushtako ish. Wasakach to sa with sa yadi. De kla ayat de nak good. Ye awe would the nechi at aya. What has to kawa what yeah, sa yakudzati sa yadi. What cute sa to asagu flipper gaki sa. It's a true story. Okay, in the interest of time, here's the translation. So people saw this abandoned baby seal, and it was on the beach, and they're looking from their house. They could see it through binoculars. They're like, oh no, like, it's been there all day. Where's its mom? What if its mom isn't coming back? So they called, I guess, the police, and they said, who's gonna help? Who's gonna help this little baby seal abandoned over there? So the Alaska Fish and Game went, and they carefully picked it up, and they brought it into a home, and lovingly were giving it milk and keeping it alive. Someone thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if this baby seal that was saved got a Tlingit name? So someone said, I know a speaker. His name is Kushtako Ish. I'll go ask him. So I went to ask Kushtako Ish, who was an old school Tlingit man. And he said, it's already got a name. It's called Sa Yedi. If you want to have a cute name, call it Flipper. I think he broke their hearts. It still makes me laugh today. Just because that's the old school Tlingit. I don't know. It's just fun stuff. But I do like to name animals. And so I think earlier when we showed the picture of the dog, I shared another story, which was, this was probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I was in Cake. during their culture camp. I was sitting on a log, and Ruth Demert was sitting on the log, and it just kind of got quiet. So I said, Keitli de Osakach Keitli, because I had a dog named Kate, which I thought was funny. And so I said, they said, and people would ask me, oh, is that a Tlingit name? I'm like, yeah. What is it in English? And I'd say dog. But then I told her, I always want to tell them, spirit of the wolf, or runs like the wind. And she says, no. And she says, spot. No, tell them that's name, it means spot. So Tlingit is a lot of fun once you really start moving with it. So keep speaking, keep studying. Shtuk anitihin dekat Yuhan. Just Yuhan a daat, gachginach, yahaayí katungi. Kachana say, kedena yakakwata, yichenach, yahaayí katungi. Yi ate, hasnak ayahashilko has. Yishukuk ayahasnak, ya hatachankiyan. Yuhan koa, hin kanach kaya shyachyati. Just yechene yitin, chosaku, yagachtiglach, yahaayí katungi. Kahakusti, akawujin yukagachtitlaat, kasha atine hakakwati, gledka kenach aya. Heshwasaka kwati dat. Just kech yak yikdach aya ishkenchik. Just kayeke ineti. Aka itu ke gurlitzin. Qoneyuch ak gitan. Yahashilko has yach. Ch'a kaya yegachtusanel takat yuhan. Atlen gnilchish ach in yeji neye. Panachoe wuke. You want me to translate it? Or do we just end it on that? I guess the short version is keep going. You're the ones who are going to stand up for this language. And it's like all the ancestors are right behind you. All the future generations are right in front. And you're the bridge. You're the thing that carries it through. And I just really believe that if you keep going, keep trying, if you don't jump out of the canoe, that we're going to make it. You got to get through the tough part. But if you get through the tough part, you'll be speaking. It will flow. It'll flow. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to push past. I think there's these colonial seeds of doubt where it feels like it's time to quit and start all over, but it's not. It's not. That's the time. That's like you're just right there. And I think sometimes being right there is kind of scary. But it's fun too, because then you get all the jokes, no one has to translate them for you. Because they're fun. It's so much fun to sit and talk in Tlingit and to come up with these different things and to just sort of like, it starts to pile up pretty fast in your own mind. So thanks for working with me and for doing this stuff. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you all. Sheesh.
Sheesh.
Sheesh. Siagan.
Stuga fetiti gunafchis.
Echa.
Cheese. Cheese.